talk is on, as I said, Stepwells and the beading culture and the revival in Gujarat and Kutch. And the purpose of this talk today is to actually preview our tour coming up in January. And I've loved hearing from so many of you who've written in and said, well, my traveling days are over. I'm not going to go on this tour, but I really appreciate you putting on these lectures because they help me, live vicariously through you. So thank you for writing in. It's always good to know that. And the purpose, the other purpose is also to showcase what wonderful marvels Stepwells are. They're architecturally, they're stunning, they're astonishing. Few people know about Stepwells, and our two leaders, Nirav and Anvi, are amazing with their knowledge and their passion for this. So I thought it would be great to showcase them. We will introduce Nirav now. Nirav, hi, can you come on, please? Yeah. Can you put your video on? And here you have Nirav.
Yes.
Nirav Panchal, yes, namaste. It's 5 o'clock in the
Namaste.
morning in India. But that doesn't deter Nirav, right? Or Anvi
Okay.
for that matter. They're 5 o'clock, they woke up, ungodly hour. And our textile travelers love Nirav's compassion and concern for the welfare of rural artisans. And of course, his dashing sense of style. He's wearing one of his outfits today. You can see wherever we go, whichever day we are going to be in whichever village, artisan village, his, he will have, a kurta that is made from the textile that village is famous for. So we always look forward to all his outfits, and he's an extraordinary tour guide as well, tour leader, award winning. He has a passion for textiles, and he actually convinced me early on that we should go and explore textiles as part of explore Stepwells as part of our textile tour, because the two are closely linked, and we're going to let you know very quickly how that happened, historically how that happened. Nirav was born in Mumbai and he grew up in Ahmedabad. He dropped out of school at age 14 to earn a living. And then he worked as a porter in a wholesale garment market, and he worked his way up to a master pattern maker. So we've often had these incidents when we're traveling, by bus, and somebody will say, Nirav, I love your pants, and how did you make them? And Nirav will pull out his tape measure and almost like a whole drafting kit. On the floor of the bus, we've had patterns being made, so we have a lot of fun with that. Um, when he was a master pattern maker at that point, he traveled throughout India to meet with both Indian and international designers. And at this time, he began developing his English skills and read history. He has loved Stepwells. He has a passion for Stepwells from a very young age. And he has assisted in the excavation of UNESCO Rani Ki Vav, and this is the queen of Stepwells. And he has assisted on several scholar research trips, the recent one being with architect journalist Victoria Lotman, who is the author of Vanishing Stepwells of India. It's a fabulous book in case you're looking for a read this summer. Our second speaker, Anvi, I will hold off introducing Anvi till we're finished with Nirav Bhai's presentation. And I just wanted to see, maybe if I turn off, I have a lot of windows open here, that if I turn them off, maybe I can share one of these with you. Let's see now. If I share that, can you all see that? Yeah, you can all see that. Okay, great. So we'll just quickly touch upon this tour that's coming up in January. We developed it. Initially, we were just doing textiles, as I said. And then over time, we realized that this land is so rich. The two seminal features of this land are Stepwells and textiles. Historically, this land was everybody coveted this land. They went to the south of India for the spices, but they actually came to Gujarat and Kutch for textiles. So it was huge in the world trade, almost as huge as, I don't know, tech today, or the number of iPhones coming from one place to the other. Starting like the Roman times, textiles were Gujarat and Kutch. They were the main exports and helped propel India into great economic wealth. So this tour, we decided there's textiles, arts and crafts, and then we have the stepwells as well, which we're going to visit about 4 or 5 stepwells, including the oldest, which is 6,500 years old in Dholavira, this one here. And then we are going to go all the way up until about the 16th century stepwells, which basically, that was when stepwells fell out of use. And we'll go into that in the talk as to why they fell out of use. So why would you want to go on a stepwells tour and a textile tour? So this is a relatively unexplored part of India. You don't see the tourist hordes that you would say you went to the Golden Triangle to see the Taj Mahal and so on. And it has stunning, stunning diversity of artisanal skills. And well, the stepwells are just kind of registering on tourist radars. So we are going to be the first ones. We were the first ones a couple of years ago for anybody to ever put on a stepwell tour. And that one ran beautifully, a lot of demand for this tour. So we decided to put it on again. And we have, as I said, fabulous tour leaders in Nirav and Anvi. So we can really take you much deeper. There's a ton of very enthusiastic reviews online. You can go online, www.eyhotours.com. Here's a map of where we're going to be going. We have quite an extensive area that we're covering in Gujarat and Kutch. This is Kutch, Bhuj. This is Dholavira here. We start in actually Bhuj, and then we come around all the way, and we end up in Rajkot actually before we fly to Rajasthan. So we also have 7 days of exploring off the beaten track Rajasthan. We have this information you can find on the website, so I'm not going to go over it too much, but in Rajasthan, it's going to be less focused on stepwells, but more on the forts and the palaces. And again, the stepwells that were used for a different purpose, because Rajasthan was a defensive area. There was a lot of forts, whereas you don't have forts in Gujarat. And Nirav is going to talk about that. If you wanted to do a block print immersion in Jaipur after this tour, that's always possible. At the end, we end in Jaipur. You can stay on a few more nights in Jaipur, and we take you into residential block printing. And then we can also go and do the Taj Mahal if you ever wanted to always do the Taj Mahal. We actually have the best accommodations, I think, of anywhere, because we stay at the beautiful house of MG in Ahmedabad, in palaces, in very ambient accommodations on the edge of Bhuj. And I personally think that this is our flagship tour. It's the 13th year that we're running it, right, Nirav? And we've perfected it. So I'm really excited about this tour. Okay, so I will stop sharing now, and I will also call up Nirav's presentation. Sorry, please bear with me. Yes, okay, we're good. Yes. Okay, Nirav. So welcome again to Nirav.
Thank you.
Shal. He's got the background you can see. He's so passionate about the stepwells. This is Rani Ki Vav that you see in the background. So I'll advance the slides. Okay, so this is one of the stepwells that we will see in there. And okay, so here you go. Nirav, please tell us more about this map. And
can you hear me? Am I audible clearly?
Yes, we can hear you. Everybody can hear Nirav. Yes, okay.
Yes.
I don't
Hello,
see
namaste. Well, thank you, Sheilaben, for this nice organization, like arranging this talk and everything. I'm very much looking forward for this exciting tour, right? And you might have noticed that I call Sheilaben and Nirav Bhai. That's more of a Gujarati term. Well, here we talk about Gujarat and the stepwells. So stepwells are not just kind of a storing water. Yeah, there are many multi-purpose use of it. It was like a resting place for the travelers, hosting the royal rituals. Yeah, also it helps the trade routes. There are many multi-purpose use for stepwells. Well, so here, one of the main reason of the stepwells in Gujarat, we have around 700 stepwells. Every 20 kilometer, there is a well. And it's not just a well, it's like inverted pyramids. So I was introduced for the step well when I was like kid, 7, 8 years old. I used to go with my grandfather and playing in the step well. I have drunk the step well water while playing. So it was in use till that. So as a childhood, I have drunk step well water, walking around it, jumping in it. Anyway, so Gujarat, there are multi-purpose use of the step well as we discussed. Most of the step wells in Gujarat is for the traders. Yeah. Water is a life. Water is everything. Right? So it is mainly for traders. We focus on the Silk Road. That's a Silk Road map which I archived from Chicago University. Well, see, Silk Road is one of the ancient trade road. Honestly, I'm still reading one more book about the Silk Road, and I will develop my knowledge about it. But well, one of the oldest Silk Road which goes from China to Europe, and this is Gujarat. Right? We are here. Uh, yeah, yeah. This is Gujarat. We are here in Gujarat. Gujarat was one of the major destination of Silk Road from China to Europe. That is the main road that kind of goes through old mid-central Asia and all. This part is Himalayan mountain region. So this part of the road closes 6 months in a year because of the glaciers. So after that, there's a Kashgar, now is in present day China. One of the off-road was from China to Gujarat, and Gujarat developed many stepwell. Also, Gujarat being on the western coastline, that blue line we can see, that's the maritime road. So being a Gujarat in a geographical location, very logistically on trade road, many stepwell developed. Gujarat is a dry land, and that's an excellent facility for water, an excellent architecture developed just for water.
Right,
Thanks.
and it was because it was so dry and because of the monsoons, right, nearby. Because right
Yes,
now you got the monsoons and it's raining every day, very hot.
yes,
So it's a very
yes,
capricious climate, isn't it? It's either very dry or it's bone, it's pouring with rain. So this is a way of kind of evening out the water supply.
yes.
Okay, do you want me to go
Yeah.
on
So
next?
next. Well, see here, it is an architectural drawing of one of the stepwell of 15th century in Gujarat, in Ahmedabad. Here you can see the well shaft, yeah, where there is a hole in the ground. So it is not just a well. It's like all this inverted pyramid, 5 floor underground. They built all these steps to access the water, right? And see how interestingly it was developed that before this, they go to one community we have in Gujarat. We call them Odin. They have kind of tool and coconuts. They're kind of water diviners. They find the spring of the water. We still practice this way. Yeah, some farmers they call this Odin community to find the spring. Then architecturally, all these things develop around this water spring. So here is the main well shaft, and all these are the 5 steps, 5 floor underground. So this style is mostly developed for the travelers, resting place for the travelers. There is a shelter, there is a water, and in Gujarat, maximum 20 kilometers, we have a step well like that.
So shall I show you? This is what it looks like
Yes.
when you're up there and you look down, which is what happened to me, by the way. When I first, I didn't know about stepwells, and I came to this Rani Ki Vav, which is the Queen stepwell. This is the UNESCO stepwell, and I came up here, and I didn't know what I was looking at because I was, all around is just gardens and nothing. You wouldn't know that there's this whole world underneath, 7 stories deep in this case. And this is the most elaborate, most beautiful stepwell with all these carvings here on the side. It's actually like a whole a pantheon of gods and goddesses and deities, and a whole story of merchants going away, and things like how to keep their wives from temptation. I mean, it's like it defies the imagination. So yeah, this is basically, you see, this is the well shaft down here, and these are your levels where, in those days people would have slept there, the merchants would have slept there. Okay, next. Yeah.
Yeah, next. Well, see, that's another architecture style of the stepwell, that this is facilitating the pilgrims. This kind of stepwells, most people you find in southern part of India and many in Rajasthan. When we use the term well, that means always a spring water, right? So here in the center, there is a well, an architecture developed around this center well. It can be square, rectangular, whatever the shape. But if you see, these are the many multiple steps allows many people to access water at the same time. Pilgrimage in India, in ancient time, it was happening in the groups, like 500 people, 1,000 people. They arrive at one shrine or temple and all can access water at the same time. So this kind of architecture helps people to access water at the same time. And center, there is a well. Yeah. So that's the another type of architecture, but always important with the water.
So this is what that would look like, correct?
Yes, it's 12th century stepwell in Gujarat. You can see that many steps, many multiple steps, center there is a well. So many people can access water at the same time. Yeah. Another image, that's the 13th century things. See,
Okay.
this facility for pilgrims only. This is the pilgrim stepwells. Stepwells were not like a swimming pool. It's never for bathing inside. Yeah. It is mostly clean drinking water. But many people can access the accommodation for the pilgrims. There is a shrine here around the stepwell. There is a shelter here, and people can access and find the water facility. This particular stepwell is still exists and active in Gujarat. 13th century stepwell, this particular one. Yeah. Wow, that's the main interesting stepwells in Gujarat. Trade history. Yeah. As we discuss about the Silk Road, textiles, any trade develops when there is an infrastructure, facility for the pilgrims. Water is a life. So they get access to the water every 20 kilometers. 20 kilometers, that means is an average traveling day. So every 20 kilometers, there is water, there is a shelter, and there is a facility for the pilgrim, for the travelers. So this particular stepwell is designed for travelers, traders. You can see this platform here and narrow corridor on the side wall that allows to go on this platform. And there is a shelter and the water, right? So that is mainly built for the travelers to sleep overnight. Yeah.
And
Next, please.
I recall you telling us that these ledges, these narrow ledges, were so that when the travelers or the merchants were sleeping there with all their, the money that they made in pots and whatever they stored it in, so it would be difficult for thieves to steal and then
Yes.
run. Otherwise, it'd be bogged
Yes,
down.
that's
So it
true.
was pretty ingenious, what
Yeah,
they thought about, how to
yeah,
keep the
that's true.
merchants safe.
See, Gujarat, we don't have any defensive architectures. Yeah, we are Gujaratis and we are not good at fighting. In India, if you go Gujaratis, are not good fighters. So we don't have defensive architecture like forts and cannons and like that. So these are like basic security from thieves. So idea is like say 20 kilometers average traveling day. So before it gets dark, travelers can access the water, drink, food, everything, and sleep overnight. So it is not easy to go on this narrow corridor in the dark. Basic security.
Right. And some of these stepwells nearby were also kind of, well, they were like a show off of royal wealth. They were royal
Yes.
patronage. So
Yes,
the
many were like
more
that.
elaborate ones were actually built. Actually, 25% of the stepwells were commissioned by women, either aristocrats or rulers. So that just kind of totally blew me away, because I thought, wow, that is, and how, because it goes down as opposed to up. Most architecture up is built to signify dynasties and male power, but these were actually built inward inside the earth, and many of them had deities, like female deities that people would pray to. So yeah, so that was amazing when I found that out. I said, yeah, that makes so much sense.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Okay, so
See, so the water level, it's always a spring water. So it can be like 5 floor underground, 7 floor undergrounds. Yeah. And water table can go up and down depending on monsoon season. So sometimes we see, I've seen many step wells full with the water. So sometimes it can be second floor is when we talk about the step well, we say first floor, second floor, third floor, reverse method.
mm,
So sometimes 2 floors are under the water. And it's such a built in uh, different geographical location. It built with different materials. Sometimes it is a rock cut, sometimes with the bricks, stones, and that can stay with the water.
right, yeah,
Wow.
this
See,
is
that's the
standing
another
from
view
up.
of looking up from the well. You see, these are the different levels and the corridors on the side wall. See, idea, this stepwells, we can say basically like a caravanserai. If you Google caravanserai in Central Asia, there are a lot of caravanserai because again, it's a trade road, Silk Road and many other business trade roads. Yeah. Caravanserais are different there, like wall and gates and something like that, because it's a different geographical location, different climates, and many other reasons. Well, when we talk about Gujarat part, it's a dry and water facility. Trade develops with the water. These are the different levels. And as Sheila Ben said, most of the stepwells were commissioned by the royal families and mostly queens. And many stepwells were built by Hindus, many built by Muslims, many built by Jains. And so many times in the stepwells, we find in images of Hindu god or Jain prophets, like that. But the stepwells were never for like worshipping like a temple or shrine or kind of things. Yeah. It was always in decorative images. Right? Stepwells were never a worshipping place.
Mm,
Architecturally, it's the same. Principle is the same. Like this particular stepwell, what we are looking at, that was commissioned by Muslim.
mm,
Right?
mhm. So
And see, one,
if
yes,
you see deities there, then they weren't consecrated. Is that what I'm hearing? So that's why they weren't used for worship, right?
yes.
They would have the iconography, but they would not be used for worship because these deities were not consecrated, like in the sense aprejam puja kare, right? Am I
Yes,
correct?
right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So see, in most of the religion, it says that to give water to the people, to shelter to the people, in Hindus, Muslim, or Jain, or every religion says it is good things. So here, it is a facility to provide water and shelter. These different labels allow different people to stay at this kind of a monument or the stepwell. Now, for the royal families, they provide a good infrastructure here. Every 20 kilometers, we have such a very advanced infrastructure. Sometimes it's like a boutique hotel, decorated, elaborated, and different people will share this area, like somebody from China, somebody from Central Asia, somebody from Europe or South India. They will share this place. These stepwells became some business centers. That's the main idea, the stepwells in Gujarat. Yeah. People exchange the trade here, develops the business. Textile was one of the main trade in Gujarat. Right? We'll talk in the tour sometime later on, a lot of history of indigos and many other things.
Mm,
Well, this one built by, we'll go back. Well, this one was built by Jain. See, same principal architecture, the platforms and all. Small condition was by all the Maharajas or the traders. If you sleep here, water is free, shelter, it's a part of the religion and whatever. Yes. But if they make trade here, they have to pay tax to the local king when
right.
there is a business. We ask for tax. Travelers are happy to pay tax, use such a nice infrastructure, develop the business. And because of this stepwell architecture developed in Gujarat, we don't have many forts, defensive architecture. Defensive architectures meaning like say the cannons or catapults. Yeah. Why to fight when there is a money, when there is a business?
Right. No, that makes sense. Okay.
Now, if it comes here, this is one of the image from one of the most beautiful stepwell in pattern in Gujarat, 11th century. Uh, I'm still working and doing research on that, whether architecture stepwell came first or textile came first. Egg or chicken, which was the first thing? Or maybe the stepwell and architecture develops same time. So we find a lot of carving and images of textiles designs in many stepwells. It can be different weaving, different block printing. Yeah. So same, which is still considered used in textiles and in the architecture.
Right. Beautiful. And we're going to see this Patan Patola. This is the double ikat, the famous double ikat of Gujarat. Wars were fought for this textile. It's horrendously complicated and immeasurably beautiful. It's an heirloom basically for Gujarati brides to have a Patan Patola. So we're going to go visit the one of the families that does this. All right.
Wow, that's a third kind of architecture. Basically, these are like private stepwells. This was often built in royal palaces or fort premises for facilitating Maharajas. Of course, the water is always important. The palace or fort can get water supply and everything is yes, but the architecture helps. Like here, the Maharaja sits in different level, cool in summertime, the dancing platform around, musicians playing music, the echo of the stepwell helps. So that's basically a third kind of architecture. We can say the private stepwell. So mainly it is built caravanserai, facilitating pilgrims, and the private. Then there are many multi-purpose, but these are the three main style.
Would have been wonderfully cool, right, Nirav,
Yes,
to
it's
descend
straight
five
school.
stories into the earth in a very hot country. So I can imagine how they would want to live there during the hot season. All right.
Wow. So that's in our EYH tour, we are going to visit one of the oldest water structure by a human, which is almost more than 6,000 years old. That we call prehistory stepwells, period. Now, these are the historical oldest stepwells in India. This is in Junagadh area, rock cut 6th century stepwell. It was built on a hill. So on a hill, they found a water source, spring, and in the beginning, the stepwell began like that, and it developed on its zenith, then stopped. So these are the few of the oldest stepwell which we'll be visiting in our next tours. One of the oldest stepwell, that's also one of the oldest stepwell in Gujarat. Yeah. So we
Now,
are going to visit
mhm.
these few oldest stepwells in Gujarat.
This is the one
Well,
that
now
funded a
yes,
cleanup.
yes, they yeah, with this stepwell, it last a few years back, we with EYHO help, we cleaned this stepwell and made the spring active. Now this stepwell is always has a water. See, that was used by the local. These are the shepherds, local shepherds. They go in area, feed the things. They feed the sheeps there.
Sometimes they're
They
the
drink
only
water.
people
It's
there.
still drinking water.
Mm-hmm. All
Thank you.
right. So thank you very much, Nirav. This is our presentation on Stepwells. If you have questions, you can put them on chat. I think one thing that we might want to just touch upon here is the modern relevance of Stepwells and why they fell out of use. So they fell out of use when the British came to India, and they considered stepwells unsanitary. And of course, with the advent of the power pump, things began like water began being pumped out of the ground into people's homes and so on, or to one of these, like a power pump. And then stepwells slowly were just silted over or used as dumping grounds. And it's only now, I think, in the last decade, 2 decades, that stepwells are coming back into use. Communities are reclaiming them because obviously the water table has gone down, and this is one of the ways in which communities can start accessing clean water. So they've been revived. People are reclaiming their heritage. Communities all around India, wherever, basically Gujarat and Rajasthan are the main areas for these stepwells because they're so arid. So it's really exciting. It's an exciting time for stepwells, and I think Nirav has also hosted concerts. The acoustics are wonderful in these stepwells. You can imagine you don't need air conditioning. You can actually go and sit like an amphitheater, and you're below, and then you can have a concert. So they're being used for a lot of exciting uses now. So very very exciting time to for stepwells. India has uh, even the feature Rani Ki Vav, which is the UNESCO stepwell, on the 500 rupee note, I think. And also there's a whole host of stamps that have been issued to showcase stepwells. So it's they're finding the radar. So yeah. So thanks very much. If you have any questions, please put them on the chat, and we will get to that at the end of this presentation. All right. So I will stop. Oops, what am I doing now? Okay. Here we go. And at this point, I'd like to invite Anvi to come on. Anvi, would you like to come on? You can unmute yourself. Can everybody see Anvi? Yep. And I will introduce Anvi. So Anvi, I met very serendipitously at the folk art market a couple of years, 2, 3 years ago. I think it was before the pandemic, and we just hit it off. And Anvi hails from Gujarat originally, but she lives in Pune. She's a textile artist. She's a fiber artist and maker from Pune. Specializes in the design and creation of beaded structures as well as embellished and embroidered surfaces. She's a graduate of the Savannah College of Art and Design, and with her keen interest in craft and textiles, Anvi headed a research and revival project to preserve the dwindling craft of beadwork in Kutch, Gujarat. She developed a curriculum, all the way from developing a curriculum to imparting business skills to these rural women, rural artisan women. And she has dedicated her efforts to uplifting craftswomen and establishing new narratives with existing traditions. And of course, we want Anvi on all our tours because she single-handedly lowers the average age on our tours. So she's lovely. She's lots of young energy, beautiful, beautifully turned out every time. Last time she was on the tour, she was leading the tour, co-leading the tour with Nirav. She had a lot of very very important tips to share: where to shop for the best jewelry, where to get the best bandhani, and so on, and also looked after everybody's comforts very amply. Okay, Anvi, I think I have to co-host you. So if you just let you share your screen, and you can go ahead and share your screen now.
Yes, just a moment. All right, I hope everyone can see the screen. Hello, I'm so glad to see all of you here. Thank you for joining us. My name is Anvi, and as Sheila introduced, I am a textile artist based in Pune, India. And I've been working specifically with beads as a material, using the techniques of loom beading, off-loom beading, and bead embroidery. So without further ado, I'm going to get started. I moved to Kutch in 2020 after pursuing a bachelor's degree in fine art at the Savannah College of Art and Design. Post my degree, I actually spent some time in Paris doing an apprenticeship with École Lesage, which is Chanel's embroidery house. So I'm also trained in haute couture embroidery. And after that, I decided to come back home, come back to the land that my family originates from, because I wanted to use a lot of the textile techniques and traditions that I had learned and incorporate them into the world of craft in India. So this image here on the screen is of one of the workshops that I was running in the villages. So through the course of designing a curriculum and setting up different systems in Kutch, the learning curve was massive because I was essentially an outsider coming into all of these traditional communities and claiming to want to run a, a design education program. And so a lot of the men in the families found me to be quite the strange creature, this 22-year-old who had all of these big, grand ideas. And my initial curriculum was designed around all of the women traveling to a specific place, which was the museum that I was funded by at the time. And some of them would have to travel an hour to 2 hours from their villages to get here and to, be a part of these series of workshops. And of course, nobody showed up. Um, and that made me realize that I had a lot more to learn about the communities that I was working with. So I had to take a step back. I had to reevaluate the way I was thinking and the way I was working, and then start again from scratch. So in the image here, you see a bunch of the women that wanted to join and wanted to learn, and I in one of the women's homes in the village. So the first thing that had to change was the location of where the workshops were held. They had to be more accessible. They had to be in the vicinity of the homes of the kaarigars or the artisans. And so instead of it being a school in one place, it kind of became this moving form of teaching and education where instead of the students going places, it was the teacher that was moving from village to village to make the whole program and all of the ideas that we were sharing more accessible. So the region that I predominantly worked in was Kutch. I did a lot of research work that included Gujarat as well, because beadwork traditions used to be a very important part of a woman's everyday life in a lot of parts of Kutch and Gujarat. So for research, I had to travel through the entire state of Gujarat as one, but a lot of my revival efforts have been specifically in the Kutch region. So like I mentioned, the beginning of the entire program was me doing a lot of research. And as you see in this first image here on the left, I had to take a picture of the woman without her face. Because a lot of the women in the villages and the men in their families are not comfortable with the women's faces being out on the internet and being shown in different places. So I had to start photographing their garments and them either with their head covering or then just without the face at all. So a lot of the pieces that I found women wearing were older pieces. They were either handed down from their mothers or their grandmothers and incorporated a combination of embroidery, beadwork, and a lot of lace that was also embroidered and then sewed onto the garment. So this is one of the garments that was in progress, and the women were beading separate panels in using multiple different kinds of stitches and then putting them together by tacking them onto cloth. So all of the pieces that I found used the same technique. So they were using a lot of off-loom beading techniques like singular bead weaving, singular bead netting, three bead netting, and the what we commonly know as the peyote stitch, or that's tacking singular beads together to one another. In a lot of the old pieces that I found, the patterning was heavily geometric, and I didn't find any images of human forms or animal forms. It was very based on floral patterns or stark geometric patterns. And continuing on the research of historic pieces into Central Asia, I found a lot of overlap between beadwork from Afghanistan and beadwork from the specific community of Megwad Marathas in Kutch. And it only makes sense because the community has migrated from Central Asia over history and has settled in Kutch over the years. So, used very differently in the garment and composed very differently because the forms of the garments are completely different. However, that use of color and the use of pattern was pretty much the same. So how did I get my foot in the door? Like I mentioned to you earlier, a 22-year-old approaching just random homes in a village, people definitely thought I was crazy. And with me being who I am and the slight American accent from my time in the US slowly waning off, I was definitely a sight to see. And some people turned me away right on. Some people wanted to watch what happened because they were curious. Some people did not believe in what I was talking about or what the view was. But what I have grown to learn is that even though you speak two completely different languages, you come from two completely different worlds, craft respects craft. And I think that's what really got my foot in the door. And I used to walk around with a giant box of all of my beadwork, and that really got people curious and talking. So these are a couple of my pieces that I used to carry around with me. And although a completely different aesthetic, completely different use of color, people still understood the similarity between the materials and the similarity in the craft. And that's really what got me going. So I'm very grateful to have studied all of these techniques and gained all of these skills because it's been really helpful to help me move forward.
There's a lot.
So I
Thank you.
sorry.
I
Sorry,
was
go
just
ahead,
going to
Sheila.
say, I hope you're going to show some of your designs. They're fabulous, Anvi.
Yes, they're coming next.
Yeah.
So I love working with intricate patterns and geometric structures and surfaces. So a lot of this is some of my personal work. And it really got all of the women very excited to see what the scope of the craft was and how far you could go with just the same traditional stitches used in different ways or combined in ways that they haven't been combined before. So, considering I had a very regimented design education, that's sort of how I set it up with the women that I was working with as well. And we started with the color wheel. And the first day of teaching the color wheel was hilarious because half of them had never used paint before. And so it was more of a let's have fun on this piece of paper, as opposed to let's learn more about how color works, which was great because just watching people be so fascinated with the fact that yellow and blue makes green, and that if you don't wash your brush after using a red and you pick up a yellow, all your yellow is suddenly orange. And it's all of those experiments that really brought us to understanding how the color wheel works. So, as opposed to a very regimented wheel that we're all familiar with. It was more of just this riot of colors, and that's how we all learned together about color. The next step was working uh, with drafts and graph patterns, which is again something that they hadn't worked with before. I apologize for these two images not showing up. They were about half an hour ago, so I'm not entirely sure what's happening. But I'll continue talking, and we can see plenty from the one available image. I apologize again. So this is again a style of working that they weren't familiar with, but I believed it to be important to document with all the designs that we were working with and how we were moving forward with different color palettes and with different patterns. And the women were surprisingly very receptive to the idea because they had been only familiar with a certain set of designs. But with the use of these graphs, it gave them a sense of individuality because they were now able to use them to create their own designs and create their own patterns and call something completely their own, as opposed to something that they learned from their mother or their grandmother. Of course, those are very important parts of their work and what they're doing, but then they also had a contribution of their own to make to the craft and to the designs. So there was a lot of creating your own designs and then experimenting with color within them to see which one looks best. So even playing around with just the very same color palette, but moving around color percentages was a whole exercise. And as word spread of, this, I've been known around Kutch as Bead Wala Bain, or the woman with the beads. And I've had people sort of talk to me about me and have asked me to, go out and find who this person is because the women in their house have heard about her and have wanted to learn. And I think that's when I really began to realize the magnitude of what was happening, because some of the women were going back to their cousins and to their friends and teaching them and telling them about this experience they've had. So we started having a lot of people looking for this experience and looking for this learning. And we had mothers who would bring their children with them. So I've had like 6 month olds. I have three-year olds and 5-year olds and 10-year olds, and all either running around or kicking over bottles of beads or sitting down and wanting to learn how a needle works. I think it would be an understatement to say these workshops are complete chaos, but at the end of the day, we do all leave with a little something from them, and I think that's the joy of it all. There have been days when I go back completely in tears because I've just had 10 children who create havoc in the workshop and have torn through books and all of that. But at the end of the day, I think the women have a very fulfilling experience to have their children included. And I think that's what it's all about at the end of the day. So like I said, people continued making designs. I'd have people approach me on the street holding their little books, showing me how far they'd been. And so seeing that people were really receptive and were open to experimentation, we started designing products and exploring more of color and started making pieces that they could actually sell and that they could supply to either different shops or they could set up their own businesses with. And so they started creating all these very well finished products. Of course, there were a lot of design challenges along the way and attempting to create pieces that people could easily use and that would color-wise be more relevant in today's market. Which to them again was a challenge where if I'd suggest a certain color palette, they would be like, this would never work until they get an order for 50 pieces and suddenly they were like, maybe it does work. And so we've kept going over the last 5 years and they've really set up businesses where they've had to work around the clock and on hard deadlines to get pieces ready, either as wedding favors or for galleries or for exhibitions. And it's been wonderful to see every single person step up to the plate. It's been wonderful to see women teach more women when they realize that they don't have enough hands to finish a project on time. So there's all of these girls teaching their mothers and teaching their grandmothers and asking their cousins to come over, and the group just continues to grow. Um, and they've also shown a lot of interest in learning the way I bead. So, learning a lot of geometric beadwork and learning a lot of combining different stitches in ways that are not necessarily true to their aesthetic. But they were very adamant and wanted to learn and really put in the time and hard work. And with all of the skills that they gained, they've now been able to be a part of some really large scale global projects. So there's a design studio called Nogard Designs based in the United States and Canada, and it's run by artist Sam Nogard. And the whole group of women were invited to participate in this uh, crowdsourced global project where people were invited to send in these components in black and white. And over time, with contributions from people all over the world, including all of these fabulous women from Kutch, they were able to gather around 7,000 components that have now been stitched together to create this wonderful portrait of bead artist Joyce J. Scott. And to take it one step further, the next year of the global project was this series of beautiful flowers, which then the artist decided to have to honor every individual flower with a stem and this beautiful leaf design. So the women in Kutch have been commissioned to create those leaf designs, and they have been designing their own patterns and own use of hue and color to make the leaves for every individual flower. So that is currently what the group is working on. And as I mentioned, a lot of the women are not very comfortable showing their faces. So we work with individual hands. And every time they know I'm going to photograph them, they'll do a henna tattoo of their names on their hands, as you can see here, so that their identity is set in stone in every image. Um, so this is the group working in part one of the groups working in their homes, and these are all the working hands. Thank you so much.
Oh, that was lovely. Thank you, Anvi. Thank you for taking us on this beading journey into the heart of Kutch. What an experience you've had. And I must say that Anvi is, when they go into these communities in Kutch and Gujarat, both Anvi and Nirav are celebrities, and they're received with with a great welcome because they've been helping these rural artisans so much. So thank you. We'll get to the questions now. We have a few questions. So how many Stepwells are in the itinerary to visit during this tour? We have the oldest one, which is in Dolavira, and then we have four more. Am I correct, Nirav bhai? We have. Sorry, you muted, I think. Okay.
Sheila, I think you will have to make him a co-host
Oh, I
because
see.
you've muted the whole
Okay.
all the participants.
Thank you.
Yeah, so then he'll be able to
Yes.
unmute.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we are going to visit approx 9 to 10 Stepwells. And there are many Stepwells on the way. Sometimes it's like spontaneous visit of the Stepwells. We'll work like a caravanserai. Yeah.
Right.
So yes, the
Um,
oldest Stepwell and the finest Stepwells.
Right.
Yes.
So when I said four besides Dholavira, five, so they're geographically in five locations, but then individually you could be accessing two different stepwells in one location.
Yes.
And we access these stepwells. Now it's been very difficult choosing which stepwell we wanted to get to, right, Nirav? Because
Yes.
there's
Absolutely
there's
true.
more than 3,000 across
Yes.
India. I mean, just across Gujarat and Rajasthan, 3,000 stepwells, and each one is fingerprint unique. So we've curated what the stepwells that you're going to see, because we want to give you the sweep of history from 6,500 years all the way BC to all the way to about the 16th century. So we're going to see this whole sweep of history there. Okay, great. And then we have a question about the beaded pieces. Are the beaded pieces for everyday wear, Anvi?
So the upper garments that you saw that were completely beaded, yes, they are for everyday wear. And they wash them and they hang them out to dry in the sun and they treat them like every regular piece of clothing, which sometimes initially really shocked me to my core. But yeah, they use it every day. If anything breaks within seconds, they mend it back, and they do use it for everyday wear, and they are heavy because that amount of weight of glass, and they're all big panels. So yes, they are for everyday wear. The next question was, is the goal of the classes with the village artisans to sell their work to tourists? It was not. The goal was to just bring the craft back into everyday use because of how time consuming the craft is. It had sort of found its way out of everyday life. And because of the women and the younger girls create these pieces as a part of their wedding trousseau. And so, as the amount of pieces required in said trousseau increased, beadwork sort of took a back seat because of how time consuming it was. And because they weren't working on it every day, then they didn't have that mastery in skill. And if it's something that they're making for themselves, it has to be perfect. So, till this date, if you want to see the best quality beadwork, you ask a woman to open up her trousseau, and there it will be.
Right.
Um, so it started out as a goal to just bring it back into everyday life. But then with practice, they got faster, they got better at it. They began making pieces for themselves to wear. And there have been instances where tourists have, shown interest to purchase right off their necks. So they saw an avenue for business in this as well. And that's how it then developed into them wanting to either set up a business or join an organization and use this skill as a source of income as well. And it's been really heartwarming to have women message you and say things like, this summer we bought a cooler with the money that we earned, and now we sleep really well through the night. Or my grandmother needed a cataract surgery, and we were able to pay for it with the money that we made selling these necklaces that we designed together. So I think the women have really found a new sense of self. And it's been lovely to also see men be more understanding of what was going on. And I would invite, almost force the men in the family to sit through the first few workshops just so that they were very clear about what's going on in the room. And once they were more consoled and satisfied with being, completely in the loop and know how, they would just get up and leave.
Then
Another
yeah, beads locally sourced.
Are the beads locally sourced? Some of them are, and some of them are purchased from an importer that imports them from the Czech Republic. So a lot of them are Czech seed beads, um, just because the ones that are locally made are uneven in size. And now that there's been an improvement of skill, they want to use beads that are more even, that make the finishing look nicer. So they're also more willing to spend a little more on the nicer beads to have their work look more elevated.
Right. And so we have a comment and a question from Elizabeth. I admire your courage in abandoning your initial ideas and figuring out what worked for the women. And what language would you use to communicate with the women? And how are you earning your living? Where are the buyers? And are there some?
Question.
What are your future plans? So,
Um,
yeah, take it
these are all
away. I mean,
questions my parents ask me on a daily basis, so thank you for bringing it up. I communicate with them in Gujarati and very broken Kutchi. Over the last 5 years, I can't still make full sentences in Kutchi, but I throw out words there and hope they stick. But I speak fluent Gujarati, and with now the television and with mobile phones and data being accessible, the women are picking up different languages. So they also speak Gujarati and Hindi now. So it hasn't been very difficult to communicate. For the initial few years, I did travel with a translator. But that has no longer been something that I need. And how do I earn my living? I do have an art practice of my own, so I'm represented by a gallery in Bombay. And I also get invited by a lot of different universities and artist residencies to teach. So I'm usually traveling for part of the year to be teaching in different parts of the world.
and we hope to have Anvi lead more of EYHO tours in
Yes, so
India so
that's
that she can
another
earn some more money.
avenue that opens up.
Okay, where are your buyers? I guess
Where are the
international.
buyers? Buyers are all over the world. We've been shipping just about everywhere. We have local buyers here in India. Some of the work has been supplied to shops in France, in Canada, in the United States. So a little bit of everywhere. Are some in India? Yes, there are a lot of buyers in India. In fact, my inbox, every time we run out of stock, my inbox is usually always full of, we want more, which is a lovely sign to see. And my future plans, I hope to continue doing what I'm doing. I hope to be able to have larger groups of women join in the movement. We're working with about 130 right now, and there's more and more joining every week. So hopefully this continues. I would also like to teach at university at some point, but I do need to go get a master's degree for that. So that's what I'm looking at as future plans for now.
Great. And here's a question for Nirav. Several years ago, I went to see a stepwell in Rajasthan. It was being used as a garbage dump, sadly. Is this common?
Yes, we cannot say it's common, but yes, I have seen many stepwell used as a garbage dump. Because as we discussed that they're no more in practical use as a caravanserai or any important thing for the travelers or something water source. What to do with these holes? So yes, sadly, few are like that. But from last few years, with a few more people working on this stepwell awareness and water crisis in the world, slowly this moment is coming to clean the stepwells and revive these beautiful architecture structures.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I think over the 15 years that I've been coming to Gujarat, there's been a renaissance, I think, as far as
Yes.
stepwells are concerned. And people are realizing the value of these as water sources.
Yes.
Um, okay, and Jill asks, what is the primary source of income for the women and their families? What is the education level? This is the
So the primary source of income for the women, they didn't really have any income. But their families, so the men in the families of this community specifically, either work with leather or are woodworkers. So that was the primary source of income for the family and the education level. So for the women, they will study at the local school in the village, which is usually up to grade 4, grade 5. But then, like middle school education or higher secondary education, they typically have to go to a neighboring village or to a school couple of villages away. And since they aren't allowed to travel by themselves, then usually that's where the education ends, formal education ends. So I've also been looking at this whole design series of design workshops as furthering education in the form of a design education. What is your favorite beading project that you worked on with the women? I think there's two. One has to be the first bulk order that they ever got, and which was the one I showed you images of, where someone wanted to give the necklaces to women as wedding favors. And it was an order of about 300 pieces. And halfway through production, the women realized that they weren't going to make the deadline. And so they just collected more women from around them, taught them the basic skills, and the group almost doubled overnight. And that's how they were able to get to the finish line. And that was something that they came up with all by themselves. And they even divided the money. They negotiated with every single woman how much they would get paid for their labor, because they had already purchased all the materials and all the beads. So they had to sort of figure out how much they need to pay each woman to give them a fair share for their work. And I think that was really very interesting and satisfying to watch happen. And the other one, I think, is to get this commission from the US, where you could really see them begin to believe that their work is so very valuable. Um, so I think those two have to be my absolute favorite.
How empowering is that? Question: any chance of visiting a woodworking workshop? So we do have a workshop where you see the carving of blocks or block printing. So that is woodworking in a finer sense. Then there are many woodworkers who make the kind of little furniture. They'll make little cradles, and they'll make little tables, and bigger pieces as well. And much of this furniture in Gujarat is lacquer. So they will lacquer it beautifully, they'll paint it beautifully. In the past, we have had visits to artisans where we've seen that, the whole process. But I'll let Nirav answer that.
Yes, we'll be having, yeah, we'll be visiting mainly the best artist is the wooden block making. That is all the history. If you see the behind me, these are the wood blocks, or the garment I'm wearing, it's a wood block. So that's the main highlight we'll be visiting. And we go in detail that the history of wooden block making in India.
Right. Yeah, and it's a treat. It's a treat to see
It's
how
a treat.
this comes together. And they'll make, to achieve the final result, there will be a set of blocks that will make one on top of the other. So, they'll be going in different colors, almost like screen printing, but with wooden blocks. It's
Yes.
fascinating to see that come together. Okay, so I will stop recording.